to across the pond. I don't even think that went with the music, but that was like the tune that I had in my head. Anyway, hello, welcome to Across the Pond, the podcast where I talk with strangers from around the world that I had no idea existed a couple weeks ago. It's really cool. That's my little intro blurb thing. I don't really have anything else to say about that, but I will tell you about the episode. Man, what an intro this is. I speak today with Jamie. He is an Englishman living in Portugal. We talked a bit about football, find out that Jamie doesn't like football, which is mind-blowing to me, given he's English. The last little bit, the last like maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes of this podcast is definitely something that people should listen to. So if you, for whatever reason, don't want to listen to this whole episode, which I don't see why you wouldn't, because each episode is great in my opinion, at least listen to the last, say, 15, 20 minutes. It is very good. It is something that people should definitely hear, because I feel that it can help a lot of people. Hey, Jamie?
Hello.
Hi there. Hold on just one second. I gotta change up. Do I sound better now?
Speak again?
Hello?
Yeah, you sound good.
I sound good? Okay, sweet. Awesome. Hey, sorry about the whole time confusion thing.
That's all right.
I didn't realize that I would be doing stuff this morning. Long story short, my wife was supposed to be gone, so I was supposed to have the weekend to myself, but she didn't leave, and so I had to change my plans. So I'm real sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right. I'm sorry. I was late. I got the times mixed up.
Nah, it's all good. No worries.
An hour wrong. Sorry about that.
No, it's totally fine. It's been so weird with the whole time thing, because of daylight savings and whatnot. Like, of course, I'm trying to talk to tons and tons of people from all around the world, and so I'm in contact with people from the United States, and then you from where you're at, and then China, and all over. And it's just like, dude, like, please just like it's so hard because there's just so many different times. But I'm glad we got it to work.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. So, how you doing? How was your week this past week?
It's been all right, actually. I've just come back into my parents' house, because Portugal's kind of going not really on a lockdown, but kind of you can't go out at certain times and things. So it's just best if everyone's kind of stays together at the moment. What about you?
That sucks. I mean, it was good, but I found out that I'm going to have to go into another lockdown. The governor. So I live in Seattle, Washington State, and the governor came out, I think it was yesterday or the day before, saying, "Hey, so we're going to go back into a lockdown because our COVID numbers suck." And so he announced this morning that there's travel restrictions, and most restaurants are going to shut down. It's like apparently more of a lockdown than it was back in like May or whenever that was.
Right.
So I'm kind of bummed out because it's like I was supposed to see my family. I was supposed to have family come in from a different state for Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, which is in like 2 or 3 weeks, but now they can't. And all this stuff's going on, so it's like, fudge, man, this COVID thing needs to be done.
I have heard of Thanksgiving, but I don't actually know what it is because I've never celebrated it. It's not a thing that we do, really.
Yeah, so pretty much what it is, and like it's definitely turned into something that is better than what it can be. So I mean, pretty much what it is, it's like families get together and they just like celebrate stuff that they're thankful for. Like we're thankful for family, we're thankful for friends, we're thankful for whatever. It's just like a big giant feast, and everyone gets together and just kind of celebrates time together.
Is it religious?
No, it's not religious. I mean, it can be, but it's more of just like a be thankful kind of time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But originally what happened is when the people from England they like sailed across the sea to colonize America, they found out that there were Native American Indians here, right? And so the very first Thanksgiving was the two different groups of people coming together and pretty much saying like, hey, like we'll allow you to live here kind of thing. So that was like the first Thanksgiving was like a
Ah,
not like a peace treaty, if you will, but kind of like a cordial, we will let you live
yeah,
here kind of thing, if that makes sense. So it kind of has evolved a little bit, and of course there are people who say, "Oh, Thanksgiving was when the white people trashed the Indians and took over their country and everything." And I mean, you're technically speaking not true, but as far as I know, from what I learned in school and stuff, it was a very like, um, shoot, what's the term? Agreed upon thing.
glorified, right?
Yeah, agreed upon thing. But yeah, so unfortunately, I can't have it this year, but that's okay. It is what it is.
Damn.
Yeah.
I'm glad I
Um.
know that because that's so alien to me.
Oh,
With
the idea of
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny because the Canadians have Thanksgiving in like October, I think it is.
Mhm.
And I think it's roughly the same thing. I could be wrong. I'm not very educated on Canadian history,
Yeah.
but they have it at the end of October, and we have ours at the end of November usually. And so it's just kind of funny to when people are like, "What the heck's Thanksgiving?" I'm like, "You don't celebrate?" Oh, that's right. It's one of these,
Yeah.
American Canadian things. So it's just kind of funny to me.
Yeah.
Kind of funny.
Oh.
So how's Portugal this time of year? Is it like cold?
Well, it should be cold, but it's actually quite warm still. I'm guessing partly to do with global warming,
Hmm.
um, but it does still stay hot until October, and then November it starts raining and getting cold, and people worry about droughts, so they
Mm.
kind of wish for the rain and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, we haven't had much rain, so the water supply's been quite low. We did just have a few rainy days about a week ago.
Mm.
It's always the same. People worry about a drought, and then it rains, and then no one worries anymore.
It's kind of funny you say that because we're the same way out here in Seattle. Around
Yeah,
this time of year, it's very rainy. And just
right.
super gloomy, and and that's what the weather's supposed to be. But we've had very few days of rain and more partially sunny days, partially cloudy days, and it's just like,
Yeah,
what the heck's going on? Like, are we going to get rain? Are we going to suffer this year? Are we going to get a lot of fires or something? But it's
yeah,
been such a weird, like, I noticed it maybe 2 years ago. It's been such a weird seasonal change or something like I'm not sure what that term is,
yeah,
but the
yeah. You're
seasons have been
right.
so weird like the last 2 years compared to what they could be or should be.
Yeah, it feels like every season's kind of moved forward a bit in terms
Yeah.
of the calendar.
Yeah. Like instead of summer starting in say like June or something like that here, it starts in like the end of July.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
so
yeah.
weird. Do
I
you
know what you mean.
do you like I mean I don't expect you to, but do you know like why that is?
Um, I don't know.
Okay.
I think global warming has got a lot to do with how the weather and the temperature is changing
Okay.
all across the world. So I would put it down to that, but I'm not an expert, unfortunately.
All right, that's fine. I just thought I'd ask because I literally have no
Yeah,
clue why it's so weird like
me
that.
neither.
It kind of blows my mind. So I've noticed that you don't have a very Spanish like accent.
Mm,
Can you please explain how you got to be where you're at?
yeah. Well, first of all, a little lesson. People in Portugal and people in Spain have a rivalry with each other. So when you tell a Portuguese person um, that they sound Spanish, they get offended.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, I'm not, but I'm not Portuguese, so it's
True,
fine.
true. Okay, good. I'm so
Um,
sorry to anyone who I might have offended. It's just like being an ignorant American, like I can't really tell the
mm,
difference. I might be able to if I really studied it, but it's all
yeah,
the same to me.
that is always what people say. Is they say, Jamie, can you speak Spanish? No, I can speak Portuguese because I live in Portugal. So basically, I was born in England, um, and when I was 4 years old, or well, before that, we came to on holidays here, and my
Hmm.
mum really liked it, so she decided to just move here
Hmm.
when I was 4. So I grew up here. Basically, it's my home, really.
Hmm. Do you enjoy it out there?
Yes and no. I used to, as a kid, I think I did. Um, I mean, I was integrated into the Portuguese
Yeah.
school system, so I learnt the language like really quickly. I can speak it basically fluently.
Hmm.
Um, but now that I'm older, I do notice flaws and things that I don't like, especially compared to England because I've been back there for a year recently.
Mm.
So yeah.
What kind of like flaws do you mean? Are you talking about like, for example, governmental flaws or just like societal flaws or?
Um, well, for example, the people, they're very tourist orientated.
Mm.
So the tourists, when they come over here, they kind of have a clouded vision. Wow, Portugal's so amazing. People are so nice. But when you live here, a lot of people aren't very nice. Customer service is known to be absolutely terrible in
Mm.
Portugal. Sometimes they won't even pick up the phone. Other times it's like it sounds like they've just gotten out of bed.
Mm.
And in person as well, they can be so rude when you don't know something and really put you down.
Ah.
But when it's a tourist, they'll treat them nicely because that's their main source of income.
Mm.
So they don't want to be mean to the tourists, which does annoy me a little bit. I feel like there would be a stronger sense of community.
Hmm.
People were just nice. I hate it when people aren't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I hate it when people aren't nice. Like it's really, really saddening to see how some people will act towards others simply because of money, or simply
Mhm.
because of some sort of value that
Yes.
they might see in that person.
Yes.
It it
Uh,
it saddens me.
yeah, I agree. I mean, Portugal shows up on a lots of top 10 destinations to visit or top 10 destinations to go to live in for your retirement,
Hmm.
right? Um, and I think that it shouldn't just be the gorgeous views and the beaches and the lovely food and restaurants. It should be further investigated.
Yeah.
What is it actually like to live here, not to just come on a holiday here.
Yeah. So is it actually like, because I've personally never been to Portugal.
Mm,
The closest I've been to Portugal would probably be France or Switzerland.
right.
But is Portugal actually like a pretty country given, put aside all the snobby, people,
Mhm.
but is it like actually pretty beach wise
Oh
and food
yeah,
wise and stuff?
yeah. I mean, it's breathtaking. Some of the things as well. Some of the cliff formations by the beach as well.
Hmm.
It really is beautiful. But again, just like in lots of countries, there are cities that are kind of that have gone down a bit in recent years. Graffiti everywhere.
Hmm.
The penis graffiti that's so synonymous with places.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of it sometimes is quite 80s in certain places.
80s.
In my apartment, it kind of looks like Miami in the 80s in
Really?
terms of the apartment buildings and the palm trees,
Whoa.
which I like, to be
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
But some people may think it's old school. But right now, where I'm at, in a place called Lagos in Portuguese, it feels very modern and it's being modernized currently as well. Lots of apartments and houses are going up at the
Mm.
moment to kind of try and modernize the place.
So, just to clarify, and you might have said this, and I might have not heard it.
Mhm.
The area that you live in is just like it's got a very old school kind of style to it.
Yeah, very 80s. Yeah.
Very 80s. Okay, that's weird. Do you see like a lot of like, how do I say this? I don't want to say time travel because that sounds really stupid. But do you see just like a lot of like people are stuck
Yeah.
in that time period kind of thing, like the way people dress
Um,
and stuff, or is it just like the architecture?
well, you know what? A lot of things that were in the 80s have actually kind of come back on themselves, hairstyles and clothes anyway,
True, true,
not
yeah.
just here. Um, so I don't know if people are just nostalgic or if
Okay.
they are modern because it's kind of the same thing right now.
Okay, I got yeah, I
But in
get that. I
terms
get
of
that.
buildings and how it looks, yeah, it's I wouldn't say stuck,
Hmm.
just more it's trying to be nostalgic.
Okay. I've never heard of a place doing that before. I mean, of course,
Hmm.
I've traveled throughout a majority of Europe, and the architecture in each place is very old school in terms of the architecture seems like it's stuck in a time loop or something like that. Like you don't see a
Right.
lot of buildings unless you go to like London or maybe even
Yeah.
parts of Munich.
Mm.
Like you don't see a lot of more modernized buildings. Uh,
Yeah.
but it's just interesting to kind of hear that
Mm.
places even as and I'll say small simply because I'm not sure of the size of your town, but like places even way out
Yes.
there are just so in that time frame, in that time
Yeah.
period. It's
I
fascinating
mean,
to
my,
me.
my apartment building was definitely built in the 80s. You've got the kind of the neon kind of sign outside that lights up at night. It was definitely an 80s thing, that
Yeah,
building. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure.
that's really cool. So,
Yeah.
so this could sound, here's the thing: when I ask questions like these, I'm not sure if these would be considered disrespectful, and I mean, like I don't think it is, but like, is
Right.
soccer or excuse me, football a really big thing over there where you're at? Like European football,
Um.
like
Oh
Ronaldo
my
and
God.
Messi and everything.
Oh, in Portugal. I mean, Ronaldo was born in Portugal.
True.
So yeah, football is really, really big over here. Lots of teams like Porto and Benfica and Sporting,
Yeah.
they're from Portugal. So yeah, football is probably the main sport over here. Everyone plays it.
So if you go like down the street and stuff, do you see like statues of your players and whatnot, and like the big old giant Ronaldo statue and everything? Maybe not in your town, but maybe say in like Lisbon or something like that.
Well, you will always see pitches
Mm-hmm.
that people either practice on, or official teams go there for training and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see statues, not in my town.
Mm.
But I'm sure in the capital, maybe somewhere in Lisbon, there probably would be something like that.
And then of course, you know what the next question is: are you a big football fan?
I'm not. I'm not. And
What?
sometimes you're a bit of an outsider when you're not.
Yeah,
And
you
they
are.
ask, yeah.
How do you get along in society not being a football fan?
I hate it. I hate it.
What?
If football was scripted like wrestling, I'd love it. I know that's such a weird thing to
That
say,
is really
but if all
strange.
of a sudden another team ran onto the pitch and started beating the crap out of the other team and scoring goals, that would be amazing.
So do you not
Um,
like? So like, what about it? Do you not like?
I think, well, sometimes people can get way too invested in it and start having a scrap, having a fight,
Mm-hmm.
for no reason because their team hasn't won.
Mm.
Um, but also the game is 90 minutes and sometimes it's really boring. It can just end up 0-0.
I
And
respect that.
yeah, yeah. I just don't want to. I'd rather watch a film if it's going to be 90 minutes.
Now, I understand that. I'm a big football fan. I've played football ever since I was a kid.
Mm,
I actually tried baseball when I was in like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old. When I was a little tiny
right.
kid, hated it. I hate baseball. It's so boring.
Really?
It is one of those sports to where like you don't do anything. You stand
Hmm.
around and wait for someone to hit a ball. At least with
Yeah.
football or I'll even say basketball, you're consistently having to move. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so I hated baseball. I was like, what sport should I play? My mother found that soccer, being football,
Mhm.
was starting to grow up. I lived in Las Vegas. It was starting to really explode in Las Vegas. And so I was like,
Wow.
you know what? Let me try that. And I loved it. I loved it so much. I played all throughout my education. I don't know what you guys call it, but primary school, secondary school, whatever it
Yeah.
is, all the way through high school. And didn't play at university, sadly, but I've been following and watching football for so long. I'm a huge Chelsea fan. So sometimes
Oh,
I
boo.
get dirty looks when I say that.
Mhm. You
Um,
would get one from me.
Oh, I'm sorry, but you don't like it, so I'll take my
Yeah, it's
chances. I'll
fine.
take my chances. But I understand what you mean by sometimes the games are really
Mhm.
boring. I can remember some football games that I watch because on Saturday mornings I try and watch whatever game's on just because I love it so
Yeah.
much. And so like there's some games that I watch and we'll say like it'll be West Brom versus Burnley, and you're like, excuse me,
Mm.
what? Like both. No offense to people who support those teams, but those teams suck. Like they're really bad. in terms of
Yeah.
like performing at the Premier League level. And so when
Yeah.
you watch those games, it's like, oh, West Brom scored in the 89th minute. It's 1-0. You're like, I just wasted 90 minutes of my life, trying
Mm.
to watch that. So I understand what you mean by it's a pretty
Yeah.
low scoring game sometimes, but like I love it when there are some people who are, I mean, it kind of goes against a little bit what you said, but I love the diehard fans that are just so into it. Not to the point
Yeah.
of like scrapping, but the ones who just hype up the crowd, and you watch it on
Oh yeah.
TV, and the crowds are just the stands are roaring, and everything. And I
Mm.
love that feeling.
I
And
mean,
man,
yeah. Sorry. Go on.
no, go ahead, please.
Well, my dad used to be a mascot for Charlton. I don't know if you know the team.
I do know them, yes.
Yeah, and so I supported Charlton when I was younger, and my dad used to take me to the games, and I could sit in the stand for free, and I could go back and see the players and things. And then my dad would come in his dog costume. He was the mascot, and it was amazing. I loved that.
Yeah,
I don't know why I went off it. I think it was just accessibility as well. I don't watch normal TV, and I
yeah.
only have Netflix in terms of streaming.
Uh,
So I don't know really.
no, I get that. There comes a point to where, if it's not easy to watch, like I
Mm.
won't just sit on the computer and try and find, a site or something like that. Like
Yeah.
I try to not do that, just because it's like, if it's not on, then oh well, it's not on.
Yeah.
Like for example, this weekend is international break. And so it's been kind of hard because I wake up early for work anyway. So I'm usually up early when the games are on, because
Uh-huh.
I live on the west coast of the States. And so, the time difference is like close to 8 hours or
Yeah.
something like that. So, the games are on earlier in the morning. So it
Of
kind of
course.
works out, right? But
Mm.
with there being no games, it's like, what do I do in the mornings? Like I really want to watch it. Like I want to consume that because I just love it so much. But yeah, like I can understand though why you kind of got weaned off of it a little bit and whatnot.
Mhm.
And if you don't have a ton of people next to you that might support the same team as you, that could probably play a huge
Yeah.
thing as well. Because the team that your father was the mascot for, like they're not very well known.
No.
I think they're tier 3 right now.
Yeah.
I think something tier 3 or tier 4. They're not the best, but it's a team that you support, and so if you don't have people
Yeah.
that support it with you, it's kind of hard. But I
Yeah.
understand it. I understand why you're not a big fan. It's not everyone's sport. It's just the most popular sport in the world, but to each his own.
Absolutely.
To each
You're
his
right.
own. Man, I never thought that you wouldn't be a football fan.
I never thought you would be as an American.
True, actually, true. It's really exploding here in the States. But mostly the MLS, which is the Major League Soccer, whatever it's called,
Right.
which I hate watching. That's so bad. It's so boring to me.
Is it?
They play such like awful scrappy football. It's just
Oh.
like if you were to pick some like the highlight game or whatever of the week, and you try to watch it, you're gonna be like, this is worse than the team I support. You know what I mean? Like they're just boring to watch, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. And I'm a big Premier League fan, so I just wake up early and watch it. So there we go. That easy.
That's great.
Yeah, I love it. So how often do you find yourself wanting to like leave Portugal? Because in the form that you filled out for me, you say you really don't
Mhm.
like living in Portugal and you think it's overrated. So like where would you end up wanting to
Yeah.
like go? Would you want to go back to England?
I think I probably would like to go back to England. Yeah.
Hmm.
I even though I've lived here all my life, it's so strange. I still don't feel like I fit in and that I'm an
Really?
outsider still. Yeah.
Is that
Bec
because of like a physical appearance?
Well, I think yeah, as well because I'm classic English. I've got ginger hair and I've got freckles. Um, so automatically, I think people kind of I'm the foreigner to
Yeah.
them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if I do speak good Portuguese and I can banter with people in Portugal, it still feels like I'm an outsider. I don't like that feeling because I've
Mm,
grown up here.
yeah.
But when I went back to England recently for a year, I realised I could just say, "Right, mate," to anyone in the shop or whatever, and they'd answer me back normally and nicely.
Hmm.
And it just felt, oh, I don't even know this person, and they're being nicer than the people that I do know in Portugal. So yeah, I probably would go back to England.
That's really interesting because like, do you find yourself, shoot, hold on. I have this question. Like I had the question on the tip of my tongue and then I thought about losing it and then I lost it. I swear on my grave. Do you find it easier to, oh my goodness. It was a really good question too. I'm so sorry. I very rarely draw blanks. Oh my goodness.
Easier to get along with English people or Portuguese?
Yeah, you know what? Let's go with that. I think that's kind of what my train of thought was going. Let's go with that. Do you find it easier to get along with people in Portugal simply because of the fact that you've been there for so long, or do you find yourself being able to get along easier with people from England because you look like them?
Well, I think to people in England, if they've never seen me or know about me or have known about me before, they just think I'm an English person. They don't go, oh, he's been to Portugal, right? Because I don't look like it. So they think I'm an Englishman, so they treat me like an Englishman. And I like that. I can feel like one of the lads immediately if I go back there. But here, I don't fit in, and I think I've pretended to for a while, whilst kind of hating it at the same time and not knowing why.
Ooh, that's deep.
Mm.
That's really deep. Do you think that maybe the like this is me assuming, so if I'm totally wrong, I'm really sorry. I don't mean to be rude in this respect, but do you think that it could be simply because of the fact that like your parents or parent when they moved out to Portugal, like you didn't really have a choice? Or do you think that maybe it's just along the fact that like you are more of I'm an English born person, I want to live in England, rather than I'm an English living in Portugal? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. But I feel like, I mean, I was 4 anyway when we moved, so it's not like my choice would have been valid anyway. So, and I'm glad I grew up here. Other than the education system, which can be a bit shoddy, a bit bad. I've got to stop using English slang because I don't know if many people understand it.
Now, dude, I understand it because I watch a lot of football, so I understand what you're saying.
I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the question? I forgot it.
What do you think is what do you think attributes to why you feel the way you do about where you live?
Yes.
Pretty much.
I think it is the people, and I don't want to blame everyone else because it could also be my fault. But I do try. I try and say hello and good morning to people, and they don't really care. And I can't really make friends because either the people that I was in school with are still quite immature. It's like they haven't grown up, and I have. Or if I try to meet new people, I just can't because I can't get along with them. For whatever reason that is, I think maybe there is a superficial thing there, but with English people, it's easier maybe because I'm English.
Were you like bullied or anything going through the Portuguese school system directly, or could it have been, or like maybe were you also maybe like bullied in terms of like a just kind of cast aside?
Right. Well, in primary school, I went to a private school, so that was kind of fine. You get bullies everywhere, so yeah, but it wasn't as bad there. And then I moved to my secondary school, and that was public. That was completely free, so anyone could go in there. You'd have the gypsies, which gypsies in Portugal aren't, in caravans and have got money. Here they ride horses and have tents and steal from people.
Wow.
And that's what a gypsy is here. So, sometimes you'd have those at the school, a 15-year-old girl that's pregnant. But just because they're a gypsy doesn't make them a bad person.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to paint the picture of the class structure that was at these schools. But you'd also get lower class people, middle class people, higher class people. And it felt like whoever was the bully was genuinely the generic movie bully that, he's balding. His clothes don't really fit him.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's quite muscly, and he will always attack you from behind.
Mm.
So yeah, and that was annoying because sometimes you'd get outlawed, just because you're not poor, and I'm not rich. I'm right in the middle. I'm middle class, but that's not my fault.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why I was bullied. I tried to be friends with everyone.
Mm.
I was quite a friendly person, and then I started getting bullied for no reason.
Ooh, I'm sorry to hear that.
That's all right.
Yeah, that kind of sucks. And I've personally never heard of.
Mhm.
I've never heard of a bullying story, if you will, like that. Simply because it's
Mhm.
usually like when you think of a bully, you think of someone who just likes to pick on someone simply
Yeah.
because of whatever reason. Oh, they're weird. Oh, they're the new
Mhm.
kid. Whatever the reason is. I've never heard of
Mhm.
someone who's like, yeah, I'm just trying to be a nice person. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
be respectful. Be polite. Whatever it is, friendly.
Mhm.
But yet they're being picked on still. Like that. I've
Yeah.
never heard that. That's weird to me. And that's why I'm wondering if it's more of like a
Jealousy.
jealousy or maybe even like a racist thing. Maybe
Um.
because like racism doesn't necessarily mean just black people or
Yeah.
just
True.
a like it's definitely also like a societal thing. And so
Mhm.
I'm wondering if that kind of plays a role into it.
Yeah, and well, I also think that at that school there were just people that wanted fights and that wanted to bully people for whatever reason.
Mm,
Um, I, I, I said then that maybe it was because of lower class picking on middle class just because they're jealous of what middle class people have.
yeah.
But a lot of the times it wasn't that. It was just, oh, here comes the bully that bullies people for no reason.
Mm.
Let's go away.
Oh, that's really unfortunate.
Mm.
And you said this was in the private school?
Secondary school. Oh no,
Secondary
this was
school.
my public
Oh,
secondary
public school.
school.
Okay, gotcha. I was gonna say, man, in a private school, I'm surprised that kid isn't disciplined, But it
Yeah.
makes a little more sense in a public school. But
Yeah,
still, that's so strange. That's unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear that. That sucks.
that's all right.
That sucks. Do you feel like that kind of played a part into turning you into who you are today? Like helped form you, or do you feel like that's
Oh,
just kind of like a
definitely.
thing?
I'm a lot more distant from people now.
Hmm.
Um, and again, going back to that public school, I feel like I had friends, but those friends could turn on you at any minute.
Oh, fake
Do you know what I
friends.
mean? If you didn't want to go to their house or something, and then the other friends that did go to the house come back to school and start bullying you. Do you know
Mm.
what I mean? For no,
Yeah.
just because you didn't go to their house.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, it was probably my fault for actually being friends with those people. But also there was an event at school, if you'd like me to tell you about it.
Sure. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I don't want you to say something that you're not comfortable with, but if you would like to share it, I'd be more than happy to listen.
Yeah. Um, it was it was right in my first class, which was Portuguese, and the teacher loved to put documentaries on, and obviously everyone else loved it because they didn't have to write anything down or anything.
Hmm.
Um, and in this documentary, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember the scene quite vividly. This woman was having like a panic attack, or she was really getting riled up, and the cameraman and the people were trying to help her and calm her down. And then all of a sudden, it's like her panic attack transferred to me, and I'd never felt anything like this before. And then I fainted. I didn't
Mm.
realize I'd fainted until I got up, and everyone was like, "You okay? You okay?"
Hmm.
Um, and then obviously the ambulance was called. But when the teacher said, "Okay, class is dismissed, everyone can go," instead of the people who I thought were my friends saying, "Jamie, you're okay," they went, "Thank you, Jamie, you've just got us out of class," and just started laughing.
Oof.
They didn't really care.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, "Oh, I hate people." And then from then on, I distanced myself from people, and that is where my anxiety kind of came from.
Mm.
I didn't have anxiety before, and then from then on, every single time I went into a Portuguese class and a video came on, I I pooed myself.
Yeah. Almost like a
uh,
PTSD kind of thing.
yeah, it is exactly like that.
Wow. I mean, I'm glad to hear that you're okay, but that's really
Mm,
unfortunate. The whole, here's the thing. And And I'll say this, I kind of went through the same thing in terms of just like
Mhm.
fake friends in school.
Yeah,
And it's really, really saddening to see the amount of narcissistic,
yeah,
self worshiping, uh, whatever that term is,
mm,
but like how people are just so self-centered and they only care
yes,
so much about what's going on that they refuse to care about other people in any way,
yeah,
shape, or form, rather
yeah,
than thank you for something unfortunate that happened, so then I get the reward.
yeah.
It's so
Well,
sad.
that that anxiety, I've only just kind of solved. That's why I went back to England to get better therapy because the therapists here aren't great. Um, so I mean, I got anxiety when I was 15, and I'm
Hmm.
19 now, so it's taken 4 years to kind of. I have the techniques now, and now I can go out anywhere, and I'm fine.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's been a long journey, but I don't miss those people at school.
Mm. Can you tell me just a little bit about what some of those? Because I personally don't struggle a lot with anxiety. Would you be able to tell me maybe some of the ways or strategies or something that you use to maybe kind of get over some anxious
Yeah.
feelings, or how you would maybe prevent that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Um, well, first of all, my anxiety not only just Portuguese classes and videos. It developed into going out anywhere where I was out of home. I felt like I'm going to faint. Oh my god, it was like PTSD.
Hmm.
Um, and so I went through loads of counselors and therapists, and I just thought, oh, I'm just talking to you and then paying you and then going home and doing the same thing the next week. So I decided to try something in England called CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy.
Okay.
And it basically it applies logic to everything.
Mm.
So she basically broke it down and she did all the math and she went, um, you can't faint from just from having anxiety. It was like a 0.00001% chance. Um, so just that alone made me go, oh, it's impossible to faint. It's all in my head.
Yeah.
But there are also techniques like there's this thing called the worry chart, where it kind of breaks off into two. Is your worry something you can change, or is it just in your head? If it is something you can change, then take the actions that you can to change it.
Hmm.
If it's not, then get out of your mind and think about something else.
Yeah.
It applies a lot of logic to it, and I think if anyone is suffering from anxiety, they should definitely give it a go because it's brilliant.
It's interesting that you say you applied logic, because here's the
Mm.
thing. I've spoken with a few people in some earlier episodes, and they were talking about suffering from anxiety. And I hear
Mhm.
a lot about how they would use a gratitude journal. And
Right.
I'm not trying to say one's worse than the other or something like that. I've just
Yeah,
never
yeah, yeah.
heard them say that this logical idea.
Mhm.
I never heard them say that the logical idea worked, or like even bring it up. And so
Yeah.
I find it very, very interesting that you do, because
Mm.
I fully believe that if you just take like, from my experience with anxiety, personally, and with some people that I have helped try and counsel through their anxious feelings
Right.
and their anxiety, a lot of the times I will bring up that logical step, like,
Mhm.
all right, you need to just, sit down, take a deep breath, and just
Yeah.
think, what do you think is causing this? Could it be something that, is, from way back in your past that you're not
Mhm.
even thinking of, but it's somehow manifesting itself
Yeah.
this way? And I say all of that just to say I'm glad that you said that the logic is something that is used, because that's what I've been
Yeah.
doing. So it helps me to know that I'm not doing the wrong thing, and kind of just trying to think that
Yes.
it is a valid way to process
Mhm.
anxiety. I like
Yeah,
that.
and I think anxiety sometimes, when you just tell someone the logical approach, um, it doesn't work because with anxiety, you think it isn't logical. You think anxiety is out
Hmm.
to get you and only you.
Hmm.
Um, but when you have a chart, like for example, there's a thing called a behavioral experiment.
Mhm.
where you write down what you're going to do. Let's say I'm going to the supermarket, and then you write down what you predict is going to happen. So I'd put, I think I'm going to faint, and then you'd write down the percentage of how much you believe that will happen. And I used to put 100%.
Mm.
And then after you do it and you go to the supermarket and nothing happens, you put the outcome, which was I went to the supermarket, I didn't faint, I was anxious
Mm.
and thought I was going to faint, but nothing happened. And then you kind of see my prediction was completely different from my outcome.
Mhm.
And then you wire that into your brain, and then you get over it and you start using these techniques without needing to look at the paper and just doing it in your head really quickly before you walk into somewhere,
Mm.
until finally you're just doing it subconsciously. But I think that people with anxiety sometimes need to go through bad counselors and bad, not necessarily bad, but different approaches
Mhm.
before they can find the one that is for them.
Mm.
Because I think there is one for everyone.
Yeah. Man, that's powerful because this is why oh my goodness, I say this every time, but it's so true. I love speaking to people that have dealt with mental health in the past because it helps me to see these, and I mean, no disrespect in this term, but super basic just ways of
Yes.
thinking. Very,
Yes.
it's something that I feel like a lot of people overlook because, that might seem weird. Why would you write down your thoughts in a journal? But it
Yeah.
definitely helps,
Yeah.
or why would you just sit down and think, I'm going to, like you said, go to the supermarket, this might happen. But then when it actually, when you're done with that task and you come back and
Yeah.
look at it, you're like, wow, that didn't happen. It's so cool to
Yeah.
see how so much of the, and this is a very generalized statement, and I mean no disrespect in it, but it's really cool to see how a lot of potential mental health problems that people do have can be sorted out by simply just breathing a little bit, taking a little bit to just, sit down, write some stuff out, think a little bit logically, and honestly try and deal with this in a way that might seem, I don't want to say mundane, but I'll say mundane for the lack of a better term, mundane, simply because of the fact that you can do it if you just think, you try and put aside your worries and you just think a little bit.
Exactly. People can do it, and that's the thing, is when people first get anxiety, they think, I can't do this, this will never go away. Oh my God. They've got to kind of calm down a bit and, and try the therapy. CBT might not be for you, but another one might be.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying to take my approach. I'm not saying to write your thoughts down in a diary. I'm not saying to use a behavioral experiment. I'm saying to try and find the one that is for you, because I'm sure that there is one. And I know that people listening with anxiety won't believe me, because to them, I'm just the guy that's over it now. And they're the people that are still suffering. But I've been there.
Yeah.
And I still suffer with depression and suicidal thoughts. That bit I haven't gotten rid of, but the anxiety I have. So that gives me hope that I can get rid of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because and I'll say this, I fully believe that just because you might suffer with some sort of mental health disability, and I'll say disability because I do believe that it is on that spectrum, doesn't mean that you aren't, worth more, or, doesn't mean that you won't ever be able to come out of it, because you definitely can. It's just a process, because your brain is all of a sudden taking in all these different perspectives and bits of information and trying to cram it together really, really hard and really, really quick to try and then project something to you that you are then experiencing. So if you're able to just kind of take a step, back, regardless of what you might have, because I mean, to be fair, there are some people who have some really severe cases, and I don't want to downplay the severity of that. But with, and like I said earlier, a more generalized group of people, you are able to kind of just sit back and try and separate your brain, if you will. Like if you have to, like you can try and map out your brain on a piece of paper, or like one of my favorite examples, and I'm not sure if this will work because I personally have never done it, but like in Sherlock Holmes with Benedict Cumberbatch, he will go to his mind palace to try and remember certain things. If you can try and somehow do that to where you then are seeing all of these different things come into play and you're able to visualize it, I feel like that will help people tremendously.
Yeah, I think you're right there, actually.
But then again, of course, I'm not any sort of licensed counselor. This is just my understanding of humans, because I started across the pond because I like to learn people. I like to understand people and like try and see why their brain works the way that it does. And so from my conversations that I've had with people and my degree from university, I feel like I do have a more a more generalized understanding of just kind of how the brain itself works than maybe the person next to me. Not to say I have a degree or anything in it, because I don't, but I do feel like I might know a tad more. I might be able to maybe compartmentalize a tad more and be able to help people out. But that's just me. Like, don't take my advice. I'm just saying, like, from my experiences, that's kind of how it is.
Yeah.
So what about Japan do you really, really want to go to? We're going to kind of turn it 180 degrees. What about Japan?
Yeah. Well, when I was like 13, during my childhood, I never really watched TV or movies or anything. So I was kind of out of that loop as well. But then all of a sudden I found anime, and I can't remember when I found it, but I found it. And I was just hooked for whatever reason, and I kept watching, and then I found manga, which is the readable but equivalent, and I loved it. And then I think it was just because as well that it was made in Japan, it was foreign, and I knew of it, and then it was just a fascination that then turned into kind of a love for the country and for the traditions and stuff, and a lot of things. It kind of branched into, I love the drifting scene in Japan. I love the traditional old-fashioned sense. I love the samurai movies. I think it's great, and I think I'd love to visit and experience all of that.
It is a very beautiful country. I think you would love it if you ever get a chance to go out there. It's beautiful. What kind of anime is like your favorite?
Oh man.
Or I should say, what is your favorite?
Or
maybe top 5.
Okay, I'd probably say Samurai Champloo is in my top 5. I'd also say The Disastrous Life of Psyche K. And FLCL, Fully Cooley. I'd say that's top 3. I think they're great.
You think they're great? Is that it? They're just great. They're your top 3, but they're just great.
They're fantastic.
Fantastic. That's so like. I'm personally not a big anime fan. It's not that I don't like it. I just there's so many out there that it's really hard for me to like sit down and watch one, if that makes sense. Like I've seen, of course, and every time anime comes up, I always say this. So if you're listening, you're like, oh my goodness, he's gonna go down this. I'm going down it again. I've seen like Death Note. I've seen Fate Stay Night or Fate Zero or whatever it's called, which I thought was phenomenal. I've seen a few others. I tried to watch Attack on Titan. I couldn't do it. I've seen some of the more basic ones, and I will say this: they are very good. And of course, I've seen like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, which are like I definitely watch those again because they're just so good. But
yeah, I mean, I think getting rid of the stigma as well that animation is just for kids, because it can be such a powerful tool. You can contort the body and the image that you just can't do in real life.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Where did you ever get into what's it called? The one that's very recent that just came out with a movie. Is it Demon Slayer?
Demon Slayer?
Yeah.
I didn't get into that, and recently I've found that I've been watching anime less, quite rarely, because it's just not for my age anymore. I'd say I was really into it when I was early teenager, kind of, but now I'm not really. I need something more mature, like an anime like Monster or something.
I have seen that one. That one's pretty good.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just not for me anymore. But I wish it was.
Interesting. I mean, to be fair, if you do go to Japan, that is a very very big part of their culture over
Yeah.
there. Like you can go into almost any like super like if you I mean I have not been to Tokyo. I've been to the airport, but I would assume just based off of my understanding of their culture and visiting a little bit that they would have anime girls everywhere and Pokemon stuff everywhere. This is actually really cool. Just to give you an idea of how ingrained anime is into the culture. When I was in the Tokyo airport, or actually, hold on, was this Tokyo? I was flying from, maybe this was Osaka. Yeah, I think it was Osaka. I had to go from the international gates to the domestic gates because I was flying from Osaka, Japan to Okinawa. And
Yeah.
when I was traveling, of course, with gates and stuff in an airport, you have to leave the terminal, which usually ends up putting you back into like the main lobby or whatever it is. So then you have to go through security again, right? And that's how this airport works.
Yeah.
And so I went into the main lobby and there was a huge, giant Mario thing. And there was Wii's everywhere. And there were kids playing Wii games and everything in the middle of the airport. It was so cool because I've never seen anything like that before. But that just kind of gives you an idea of how ingrained, video games and anime culture is in that culture. It's really cool. I think you'll love it.
That sounds great.
Not to mention, Japanese food is bomb. It is so good.
Yeah.
So good. So, let's see. When you filled this form out, you say, I saw your post on podcast and I knew I had to. What do you mean by you knew you had to? Was it just because you enjoyed speaking to people, or was it like I have like a story or something that I want to tell?
I knew I just had to speak out on just the things that I have spoken about,
Okay.
Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
It was more of just venting. But I love podcasts. I listen to them all the time, and I'd love to have my own.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to be on one, which is why again I contacted you. So yeah, I just found them really fun. I listened to one of yours and I really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you.
So I thought I'd take a shot.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like it's so cool to hear people like that. Yeah, I kind of listen a little bit, I want to be on one. And then here's the one thing that I freaking love about doing this. Like some people will fill out the form and they're, it's just more basic stuff. Yeah, like for example, you say you live in Portugal. You say you want to go to Japan. You say that you would love to live in England, and you say like you think Portugal's overrated. And that's about all you gave me. Not and I mean no disrespect in that. Like, I'm very thankful that you filled it out. But then, when we get to talking a little bit more, you're like, I suffered from, depression and suicidal thoughts and all this stuff. And then it opens up a giant can of worms that we can explore and talk about. And that's why I love doing stuff like this and giving people that chance, because there is so much value and stuff in just you and your life that you can share with so many people. That's what I find awesome. And then not only is, that great, you get to help all these people, I also get to kind of learn a little bit about you and be able to learn maybe a little bit about mental health a little bit more, or I might be able to learn a little bit more about the Portuguese culture and how you're saying pretty much don't go there, just because it's like like the people suck and all this stuff, and like I don't want to be treated differently just because I might be white compared to a Portuguese person. But it's so cool to just kind of see the greatness that is people's lives be exemplified through just talking with someone else and the stuff that can come out from that. For example, I was talking to it was actually my second episode. I was talking to a buddy of mine that I've known for a couple of years, and I didn't really expect much, and he went on for 30 minutes about mental health, and I was like, you have mental health problems? You're like, I had no clue that you suffered from this. And he just went on about it in like a really good, constructive way. And I was like, this is what I'm going for. If episode, like my thought process was, if episode 2 is this good, like I can't wait to see some of the people that I get to speak to. This is going to be awesome. But I say that to say, one, thank you, like opening up, about all that stuff not only takes guts, but it's also something that I feel like is really good to hear yourself say rather than just think.
Yeah, you're right.
But it's like, thank you for opening up and doing all that.
all
You know,
right. That's absolutely
I hope that this gave you a little bit of clarity, maybe, or maybe it helped you kind of just figure out a path maybe a little bit more. That's kind of my goal. Like I want to hear about people's lives, but I also want to be able to then give them something to maybe help them
fine.
just a little bit
Yeah.
if I can. But
I
yeah.
think your format is quite good because of people having to submit forms. It's kind of like, let's say you get 10 people submit. It's kind of like you're walking by 10 people on the street,
Hmm.
but you decide to speak to one person and you realize that they're not just someone walking by.
Hmm.
They've got a life just like you have.
Yeah.
I think it's quite interesting.
Yeah. I mean, here's the one thing that I will say though. Like the one thing that I really have a hard time with is that there are some people who have filled out the form and they
Mhm,
literally give me no information. And it's not that I
mhm.
don't want to speak to them. It's like as a host, I want to try and have a very, very, very skeletonized
Yes.
outline. I want to try and have at least 2 or 3 points that I can touch on. So
Mhm.
so I'm not going in. So Jamie, you know, how was your day? Do you like
Right.
Portugal? You know, like of course I'm going to ask that stuff, but
Yeah.
that doesn't include, you know, the maybe 2 or 3 things that I will ask, which then, you know, hopefully will expand to a
Right.
little bit more. So, you know, I have been a little picky choosy to be fair. You know, there are some
That's
people that I
fine.
just haven't gone back to, which I feel like is okay. But I try to give everyone a shot.
I think that's fine. I mean, if people want to be on the podcast, I think they should at least put the effort in.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will be filling out the form, and if you don't put anything on, why would you be picked?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
No, and I think that's a good way to look at it, you know? Knowing that you are putting yourself out there, but odds are
mm.
will probably pick almost anyone. But at the same time, you know, like please don't feel bad if I don't. I
Yeah.
do want I do have 2 more questions. One I always ask people, and then this one I'm just kind of curious about. What do you see yourself doing in say like 5 to 10 years in terms of like maybe an education or maybe some sort of like job? Like where do you see yourself going?
Um, wow, this is a hard question for me. Because if I was honest, and I will be, I'd say I'd be dead.
Hmm.
Um, but if I was optimistic, I'd say I don't know.
Hmm.
Because I hate life. Sometimes I think certain people can be lumped in with just you don't like life, you're suicidal, instead of you don't like life, it's not for you. You know what I mean? Just like football isn't for me.
Hmm.
It sounds like an odd remark, but to some people it is just like that. It's not for me,
Hmm.
and I feel like the innocence of being a child when you are one is fantastic. Because the walls kind of pulled over your eyes about how cruel the world is and the responsibility that you kind of have to have.
Hmm.
And I feel like you are kind of trapped in a way. I used to think I wanted to get a job at a simple 9 to 5 and live a simple life, but I don't because it's kind of a prison. Um, I can work for this money, but I'll have to pay my taxes and I'll have to pay rent and
Hmm.
bills, and that's not really freedom to me. I know that might sound odd, because for a lot of people that's independence, but to me it's not because I mean again you're being tracked probably all the time. Uh, People know where you are because of I don't know security camera footage or whatever. So
Hmm.
you can't just Wild West style um, go make a new life for yourself, which I don't like.
Hmm. So if you were to then maybe break that stigma of, you know, the 9 to 5 everyday job, pay your taxes, yada, 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 you know, and you were able to actually, let's just say, you know, you're really into YouTube and you really want to do YouTube and content creation and your niche is like traveling the world or something like that. Would you maybe then reconsider, or is it just something along the lines of, I just don't want life?
Um, yeah, I just don't want life at the moment.
Mm,
I mean, and I'm 19, so I'm probably extremely immature. Um, but I don't want it. I like speaking to people, just like you said you do.
mm-hmm,
So if I was, optimistic, I'd say, yeah, I'd probably have maybe a podcast or or I'd have a blog or something where I talk to people and find out about their lives. But yeah, I would say that for now it's just not for me.
I would encourage you with this, and this isn't even like me, a podcast host, trying to
Mm,
speak to my guests. This is like personally like me speaking to you.
yeah,
I would definitely consider giving it a shot. Like, of course, nothing that I say will
yeah,
it. I can only say so much, and I don't
yeah,
want to try and fabricate anything and make it sound like I am pulling you away from whatever side you are leaning on. But I want to
yeah.
say that I was the same way as you a long time ago. Maybe not to the same extreme.
Mhm.
And I say that with respect.
Yeah, of course.
But I was in the same realm as you. And it
Yeah,
wasn't until I decided that I wanted to change and I wanted to try and figure out what I'm going to do rather than just kind of letting life go.
mhm.
It wasn't until that point to where I started to have my eyes opened up to
Yes,
the possibilities of what life can be.
yeah,
Um, so again, I'm not trying to um, be disrespectful in your choice, but I would encourage you to try and maybe, I don't know, reach out and see if there's some avenue that you might not have explored before,
yeah,
or something along that line. Just because life can be incredibly, incredibly rewarding,
yeah,
and a lot of the times when you see people who are at rock bottom or don't want life, it's because and again, no disrespect in this, but it's because they kind of just skated and they haven't really seized it for what it is. So I would encourage you in that respect just to kind of you know take the reins, if you will, and
yeah,
really just kind of look at what the possibilities are, because there are so many awesome things about this life.
yeah,
Experiences, people, places to go travel to. Like, heck, maybe in like 5 years you could be like the first. What will we be in 5 years? 24-year-old to go to space. Like, heck, I don't know.
right,
There
yeah,
could be so many awesome possibilities. It's just kind of one of those things to where no one's really sure about what they want to do
mhm,
until it hits them.
yeah, yeah,
So, for me to you, and not even podcast host to guest, literally, as just two people talking, that would be my encouragement to you.
mhm. Wow, that's great.
Um, but yeah, and I don't want to just kind of turn on this note, but I
Mhm.
do want to kind of wrap things up just a little bit.
Sure.
So I will ask this. This is my last question, and this is something that
Yeah,
I've asked everyone except my very last the last interview I did. We were cut short on time because he had to go do something, so I
gotcha.
didn't unfortunately ask him. But I say that to say that I ask everyone, what would be a piece of advice that you could give to someone, simply because of the fact that like, maybe this is something that I since I was, 4 and I moved to Portugal, this is something that I kind of held on to. Or, this is
Mhm.
something that maybe I developed through watching a TV show or something like that. That's really just kind of stuck with me. Like, what would be that one saying or advice that you could pass down to someone?
I would say probably, um, it's really important. No one can help you if you don't help yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that people can push you. Let's say, for example, a therapist can help you and give you things to work on yourself, but you've got to work on yourself. You can't just have things given to you and then you're cured just like that, snap of the fingers. Um, I think you have to help yourself, and then you will kind of find a balance in your life where you can take advice from other people, and
Mm-hmm.
then you could process it in your head and come up with what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. Um, and I don't know. I want to be honest with you and transparent. When I have a really bad habit of, when people give advice, I try and add on to it. So I say all of that to say that I'm not going to, because I do feel like that's really solid and that's something that should resonate. So,
Yeah.
um, but awesome. Thank you so much, Jamie, for doing this. I really do appreciate you for being so honest. that's a quality that a lot of people, I feel like, have lost, is a honest quality and a transparent quality. And so I really do thank you for opening up. And like I said, again, I would encourage you, try different avenues. And I'll offer this, like if you need to speak or like at least vent, like I am here, we're meeting through Discord. So, like if you need to, like I'm here. I'd love to speak with you again, help you out if I can.
Thank you very much, man. This was great.
Yeah. Thank you for opening up and just being such a cool guy, like you're very, very, very nice and very, easy to talk to. So I appreciate that.
Oh, cheers. Thank you.
Yeah. I hope you have a great week, this upcoming week. And, I hope everything, goes well. I'll for sure email you, or is Discord easier to get a hold of you, or is email?
Email and Discord are both fine.
Okay. What I'll do is whenever this goes live, I'll send you an email and I'll write you on Discord saying, hey, this is live, just to kind of give you an idea. It'll probably be about a month or so.
Brilliant.
But yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And hope you have a great night and a great week.
Thank you. You too.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Dude, Jamie is a very, very good kid. And I'll say kid because he's younger than me. No disrespect in that. I will say this though, if you have thoughts, suicidal thoughts, talk to someone. Like it sounds very cliche, and I'm trying to be as transparent as possible, but like you got to for sure just talk with someone. People might not understand, but it is something that is becoming more apparent. And people are becoming more aware of it. So please just reach out, because all life is precious. I fully believe that, And I will reiterate, a lot of times when you see people down in the dumps, there are some people who have very unfortunate lives, but a lot of people chose to be there. So for sure, just reach out. The link for the hotline, suicide hotline, I'll put in the show notes. So even if you need to resort to that, I would definitely give that a shot, because like I said to Jamie, there is a lot of good in life. I'm speaking from experience. There's a lot of good in life, and you can step back from that edge. So please do that. Thank you for listening to this episode of Across the Pond. If you feel this was something that deserved your time, you really enjoyed it, or even if you really disliked it, please rate it however you see fit on whatever platform you're on. If you think you know someone that would love to be a guest on an episode, please send them my email address. That's acrossthepondpod01@gmail.com. It's in the show notes. You can also connect with me on Twitter at KingServant. That's KIngsservant. I want to thank Mark for making the logo for me, and for the Black Couch label, and solo artist Ollie H for making the music. And I want to thank you, the listener, for being here and giving this about an hour of your time. Really do appreciate it. Tune in next Sunday for another episode of Across the Pond.